wondrous. Wonderful. We marvel at the awesome wonders of nature and the wonders fashioned by human hands. Soaring heights of architecture, fusions of art and engineering, peaks of grandeur, and spiritual majesty in sculpted stone. From these timeless treasures rise the pinnacle of human achievement. Unique, greatest among the great, the 7 new wonders of the world. India's incomparable Taj Mahal. Jordan's lost city of Petra. Peru's Inca citadel, Machu Picchu. Rome's infamous Colosseum. Mexico's Mayan metropolis, Chichen Itza. China's Great Wall. And Brazil's mountaintop sculpture of Christ the Redeemer. These are the new wonders of the world. As human beings, our capacity for astonishment is boundless. Even the ancients stood in awe of the colossal works of their own creation. Some 2,200 years ago, a lone Greek scholar, Philo of Byzantium, compiled a list of the wonders of the world he knew. There were 7 entries. Most of us can't recall all 7, because 6 of them have crumbled into the dust of history. Then, more than 2 millennia after the ancients compounded their 7-fold list, human beings took a fresh look around them. A new list emerged, hailed by the media, of wonders still standing, most of which were unknown in the ancient world. Wonders which have some meaning in the world we're living in. The old 7 wonders, splendid as they must have been, belong to the ancient past. The new 7 wonders belong to you. The first wonder of the world, the Taj Mahal. This is the city of Agra, home of a new wonder of the world. Once it was the capital of the Muslim conquerors of northern India. Today, Agra is a railroad junction, pulsating to the beat of trade and commerce, the jangle of hawkers, gawkers, peddlers, and holy men, and the din of traffic, trucks and taxis, oxen and elephants. But noisy, dusty Agra swirls around a core of serenity. Within a red sandstone wall reached through this gate 100 feet high, fashioned of 8 different ornamental metals. And then you see an elegy in marble. This is the architecture of perfect peace. Yet we owe its existence to a man who commands armies and leads military campaigns. A man of tremendous energy, whose name Jahan means master of the world. With much bloodletting, he ruled 17th century Muslim India from the Red Fort at Agra. But the threat of being overthrown hangs over him always. Despite his ruthlessness, he is a builder and beautifies his domain. When not off to war, he basks in luxury. Pampered by 2 wives and a harem of concubines, they are a display of Jahan's power and wealth. He takes the same pride in his harem as he does in his thoroughbred horses. Then, his life is changed. For the first time, he sees her. She is the Persian princess Mumtaz. In one eternal moment, the Shah Jahan awakens to love, truly and deeply. She too is smitten. Their love is immediate, unquenchable. But burning desire waits upon the court astrologers. Until the planets are favorable and the stars have set a course for them, they cannot wed. At last, the princess becomes his wife, his chosen one. The years pass, but their passion for each other never wanes. Their very souls are mated. She becomes his most trusted advisor. She rarely leaves his side. Then, the idyll ends. When Mumtaz presents him with her last child, a little princess bursting with health, her own life is ebbing from a difficult birth. Jahan can only watch, helplessly, while his beloved lies dying before his eyes. With her last breath, she whispers a dying wish.
You're the builder of palaces.
Jahan assents, and the beautiful Mumtaz closes her eyes forever. Jahan locks himself in his chamber. He forbids the playing of music in the palace, no singing, no laughter. He allows himself no food, no sleep. His grief knows no bounds. When at last he emerges, he is gray, shrunk, bent. For the affairs of state he has no time. Wars are postponed. Daily he wants only to linger at the grave of his beloved. Over and over again, through the earth that covers her, he hears her dying words. Immortalize our love, Jahan. You, a builder of palaces and cities, must create a testament to our love that death cannot diminish. Jahan envisions a mausoleum of flawless white marble, embedded with precious gemstones. Plans are pored over. 1,000 elephants haul blocks of marble from quarries 200 miles away. 20,000 men, stonecutters, builders, artisans, craftsmen, labor some 22 years before it is finished. Jahan's promise to his dying beloved produces a masterpiece of perfect symmetry and a testament to the gentle power of love. Fronted by flower beds and reflecting pools, ornamental trees and sparkling fountains, the Taj stands guarded by minarets, slender sentinels facing the four directions. Delicate trellises, marble mosaics, and patterns of inlaid jewels are exquisite. There is, over the main portal, an Arabic text made of inlaid jasper. O soul, thou art at rest. Jahan's beloved lay in her tomb in the inner chamber facing the holy city of Mecca. Inscribed on the tomb are 99 names of God. O noble, O magnificent, O majestic, O eternal, O glorious. Shockwaves. Jahan is overthrown by his own son and placed under house arrest in his own palace. While he lives, he will never be allowed to leave these confines. But from his barred window, he can look across to the resting place of Mumtaz. Everything has wasted away but his love. Jahan himself dies at age 74. His final resting place is a tomb beside that of Mumtaz. In death, they are again together. The Taj Mahal that shelters them comes as close to perfection as any human creation on earth. The second wonder, Petra. A city lost to history for centuries, known only to secretive Bedouins, and rediscovered in an age its builders could never have comprehended. Petra. Water. It was a water bonanza that caused this metropolis to be carved from a desert wasteland. Hewn of living rock, Petra is indeed a wonder of the world. It owed its existence to water, but its prosperity to another factor: silk. Silk, as fine as a spider's web and strong as steel, is a commodity as precious as gold. The world wants silk, and only China knows the secret of its manufacture. A secret the Chinese will not share with foreigners, on pain of death. Kingdoms, nations, empires demand silk. So 2 centuries before Christ, a path is worn into some 5,000 miles of Asian desert. Ground smooth by the hooves of camels and oxen, and the wheels of a deluge of transport carts. In the ancient world, this is a big boost to what we call cultural exchange. Arabs get silk from the Chinese, and the Chinese get spices from the Arabs. Over the centuries to come, that mercantile path broadens to become the highway known as the Silk Road. Stretching from Xi'an in China, then called Chang'an, through Shanxi province, braving the Gobi Desert, traversing Persia, a route taken by Marco Polo, to waiting ships at the ports of the Red Sea. Some shipments continue on into the Greek world. Some course the Mediterranean to the port of Ostia and the great city of Rome. It's extraordinary. This transcontinental route links the Roman Empire with Imperial China. Near the end of the transport chain, bordered by the Red Sea, a barren strip of Asia bakes under the desert sun. For the overall movement of merchandise, it is a shipment hub for the markets in Syria, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. In the Bible, this is the realm of Ammon, Moab, and Edom. It is here where Lawrence of Arabia led Bedouin tribesmen in a revolt against their Turkish masters. Today we know this land as the Kingdom of Jordan. On a slope of Mount Hor, before the Silk Road melts into the sea, there lies a city of rest and refreshment. For the travel-weary caravans, it is virtually unseen, in no way apparent to the eye. Circled by towering hills or rust-colored sandstone which protect against invaders. Entering through a narrow gorge, slithering through a cleft in the towering rocks, and then you behold a city carved from living rock. Like colossal cameos. A splendid fusion of Syrian, Greek, and Egyptian architecture. Its pillars and statues changing hues with the sun's passage. In the Book of Kings in the Bible, this city is called Sela. It is mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Today it is called Petra, meaning rock or stone in Greek, and we hail it as one of the wonders of the world. We know very little about the builders of this remarkable city. They were an Arabic people called Nabateans. Quite possibly they were the ancestors of the Bedouins who live here today. In ruling Petra, they became wealthy and powerful. This team of archaeologists from the United States is exploring Petra's Great Temple, the largest and best preserved of the standing buildings. They discover a small concealed opening, a secret passageway leading to a storeroom. Buried treasure? Treasure indeed, for that which is so secretly and carefully stored is water. No commodity, salt or silk, jewels or jasper, was of such value as water. The Silk Road routes snake over thousands of miles of waterless wasteland. Each water drop was more precious than a gemstone. Petra, too, straddled a parched landscape. Infrequently, in winter, there were flash floods. Rains fell with such force and so heavily, they destroyed cities, houses of brick or wood or stucco. Petra was built into indestructible rock. The archaeologists discovered more water storage facilities, more vessels, more secret chambers. The Nabateans had engineered a superb system of capturing and storing rainwater from the winter flash floods. Travelers were charged a fee for rest and water. Petra successfully turned the Silk Road into a toll road and grew rich. After some 600 years of flourishing, 4th century BC through the 2nd century AD, trade routes changed and Petra faded back into the desert, remembered by only a few local Bedouins who guarded it from outsiders. Today, Petra still stands, proudly, silently, a rose-red city, half as old as time. The third wonder, Machu Picchu. The Inca stronghold, called Machu Picchu, hangs green and verdant in the cloud forests of the Andes, a wonder of the world. Golden corn is their nourishment, their life-giving food. They are descended from the sun, and only they, the Incas, dare to utter the sun's divine name. Vestal virgins maintain the sun's sacred fire. And in Inca art, the holy icon of the sun is a disk of solid gold bursting with fiery rays. Rising abruptly from South America's Pacific coast, the Andes are one of the great mountain chains on our planet. Arctic peaks, cloud forests, angry volcanoes, crashing waterfalls. This is the domain of the Incas, the ancestors of these Quechua Indians of the Peruvian highlands. Some 5 centuries have passed since the destruction of the Inca Empire of their forebears, but the Quechuas have long memories. They speak in the Quechuan language, as the Incas had. They've resisted the encroachment of Europeans, for theirs had been a great civilization. They cultivated then, as they do today, corn or maize, the ears golden like the sun. They domesticated llamas as pack animals as well as for meat, and alpacas for their fine wool. They were the first to cultivate the potato, for which the whole world owes them a debt of gratitude. Most importantly, they were superb builders in stone and achieved a governmental system unequaled by any Indian nation in the Western Hemisphere. At its height, the Inca Empire extended some 2,500 miles from present-day Ecuador to Chile, an area in size equal to the states of the Atlantic coast in the USA. The region was home to 16 million Indians. Without horses, without vehicles in so vast a territory, how could they keep in touch? They did, and swiftly. A network of stone roads connected every part of the empire. Trained runners working in relays could cover 250 miles a day. This was their capital, in the valley of Cusco. It is over 11,000 feet above sea level. Once it teemed with Inca kings, nobles, warriors. In 1532, with fewer than 200 men, Francisco Pizarro, a Spanish conquistador famous for both his courage and his cruelty, captures the Inca king and kills him. Fearful of the Spaniards' horses and firepower, thousands of Incas flee to the mountains, where for almost 40 years they resist the Spanish takeover. Pizarro strips the Inca capital of its fabulous wealth. This is the courtyard of the great Temple of the Sun. Once it was paved with 700 sheets of solid gold. In all, the invaders loot 24 tons of gold and silver. By the middle of the 16th century, Cusco is a Spanish colonial city built on the solid stone foundations of the Inca capital. After centuries, historians are still seeking a royal roost in the mountains, where many Incas took refuge from the Spanish. One such historian is Hiram Bingham, an American who, in the year 1911, sets out to find the lost site. Quechua Indians guide him up a wild mountain, thick with cloud forest, a wilderness no human being would choose to live in. In a gorge below, the Urubamba River snarls angrily. Some 1,500 feet above the gorge, he comes upon tier over tier of agricultural terraces. Like hanging gardens, Bingham is amazed. The amount of food that can be grown here could feed multitudes. There, perched on a mountain peak, over 200 stone buildings of superb construction and workmanship have been built around a central plaza. The guide has no name for this place other than Machu Picchu, the old peak. Untouched, this is a place the energetic Spanish, in their greed for gold, had never uncovered. Without the benefits of the wheel, or horses, or oxen, gigantic granite blocks were hauled from their quarries to the site. Here they were fine cut in order to fit perfectly, almost seamlessly. These are masterpieces of stonework. They withstood storms, earthquakes. Only their thatched roofs have yielded to the passing of centuries. For sure, thinks Bingham, this is the site of the Incas' last stand. But with further exploring, archaeologists find no evidence of any military undertaking. Remote, restful in its isolation, it was more likely a retreat for the king and his nobles from the bustle and hard weather of Cusco. Teams of explorers search beyond for more settlements, satellites of Machu Picchu, dwellings for servants of the nobles. A little higher with each stroke of the machete, the air getting thinner as they inch their way up. They're rewarded at last. Here, in this wilderness, they discover a wall constructed by human hands.
Look at this building. Have you seen anything like it? Look at the huge window in the front.
What they've discovered supports the theory that Machu Picchu was a retreat for royalty and nobles. Their servants lived in settlements like this one.
And it's likely that this appeared nothing like this during Inca times, that this wall was totally covered over with a plaster. And as we know, it was probably rose-colored or some kind of tan. So in essence, it looked like a Santa Fe Pueblo.
From this site, you can see Machu Picchu in the distance. Some scholars contend that Machu Picchu is a sacred site, a headquarters of the Inca religion. This is an Inca holy of holies, the Intihuatana. Carved of solid rock, it is designed so that the upright in its center casts a shadow on the different parts of the stone. marking the phases of the year. This is the hitching place of the sun. In this holy place, the Incas could predict the coming of a solstice or an equinox, knowledge vital to planting and harvesting, and the breeding of llamas. Quechua festivals still celebrate the sun's passage through the sky. They celebrate their ancestors, the Incas, taking pride in their accomplishments in art and engineering, in government, in agriculture. The great Incas still live in these people, in the language and customs, as though they had never felt the heel of the conqueror's boot. The Quechua Indians today glory in the wondrous stronghold on the old peak, the Machu Picchu. The fourth wonder, the Colosseum. A wonder of the world. An ancient masterpiece of art and engineering, standing boldly since the 1st century of our era. Withstanding the tremors of time and traffic, the corroding air, and the tramp, tramp, tramp of multitudes of gawking tourists. Rome's Colosseum. It was the spectacles of ancient Rome growing ever more elaborate and violent that spurred the building of this magnificent amphitheater. Spectacles to pacify a dangerously volatile population. You can almost hear the cheering of the spectators. More than any other factor, it is the cult of the gladiator that mandated its construction. Why this bloodlust on the part of the people? Romans despise weakness and worship courage. Rome did not grow from a backwater village to a superpower by being squeamish. Romans have to be tough. For a citizen, man, woman, or child to flinch at the sight of blood is a weakness the ruler of the world can ill afford, not if Rome is to stay on top. The gladiatorial games are a celebration of that Roman toughness. So great amphitheaters are built to accommodate them. In Verona, in northern Italy, Alexandria in Egypt, Tiberias in Palestine, Arles in Gaul. The greatest of these huge theaters in the round is Rome's Flavian Amphitheater, begun during the reign of Vespasian and inaugurated by the Emperor Titus in the year 80 of our era. Known as the Colosseum, it is ancient Rome's greatest amphitheater. It took more than 100,000 blocks of travertine marble to build the Colosseum. Covering 6 acres, it rises imperiously in stories of arches. Doric columns on the first, Ionic on the second, Corinthian on the third, and Corinthian pilasters on top. Huge movable awnings protect spectators from oppressive sun. Rome kept 1,000 sailors at the Colosseum to help hoist the awnings into place. In today's terms, the Colosseum is as high as a 12 to 15-story building. Of its 80 entrances, 76 are used by the general public. A superbly designed network of galleries and staircases lead up to the seating. Each spectator holds a pass bearing the number of an entrance. 50,000 people can be seated in 10 minutes. The emperor has his own private entrance. He and his entourage are seated on a podium in a spacious royal box. Upper classes enjoy reserved seats in the first 36 rows. Being closest to the arena, these patricians carry sweet-smelling sachets, which they breathe through when the stench of blood gets to be too much. In the galleries, vendors hawk drinks, snacks, and souvenirs. Blankets can be rented out because the shows often run through the night. In Rome's early years, gladiatorial matches are simple affairs, one-on-one street fights to the death. They're performed as a kind of ritual during the 4th century BC. At the funerals of very important persons, 2 sturdy slaves are pitted against each other in mortal combat. The loser dies so that the gods will grant the deceased a peaceful afterlife. The weapon wielded is a short sword, a gladius, hence the combatants are called gladiators. From this simple but bloody ritual evolves the mass gladiatorial spectacles of the arena. They become wildly popular. Over the span of 500 years, this blood sport wins fans in every part of the empire. Some gladiators become household names. A condemned criminal or a lowly slave can emerge as a blood sport superstar. Ladies of fine families risk their reputation to rendezvous with an arena favorite. Few gladiators are Roman by birth. Most wear the gear of their provinces in the empire, Greece, Phrygia, Gaul, and use the combat techniques of their native lands. Gladiators become a huge commercial venture. Conniving managers take over the blood sports. They buy and sell gladiators like racehorses. The training is rigorous. Since the managers want to keep them strong, gladiators eat well. Yet an ever-present shadow hangs over them. Even on a superstar, the fickle spectators might turn thumbs down. And the gladiator suffers death for the crowd's amusement. A fine white sand from Egypt covers the wooden arena floor. It absorbs the blood. Circling the arena is a net to keep the wild beasts from attacking the audience. It is supported by the tusks of elephants that were slaughtered in the ring. Below the floor is an underworld, a dank labyrinth of passageways and corridors. Here, in the gloom of foul-smelling cells, both gladiators and hungry beasts wait their turns. From above, cries of human agony can be heard. From the cages below, the roaring and snarling of starving beasts. Then a slave driver cues the next contingent of gladiators. On stage. Like circus animals, the gladiators are let out of their cages at performance time. Some will not return. It is no longer a match between 2 opponents. Not in Rome's Colosseum. Hundreds of combating pairs fill the arena. For variety, wild beasts slink from below into the blinding light. Slaves whip them into mauling unarmed men and women. And for heightened spectacle, the arena of the Colosseum is flooded. War galleys are launched. Ships ram each other. This remarkable structure has been standing for more than 19 centuries. It would have been torn down had not Pope Benedict XIV declared it a shrine to the early Christian martyrs. Historically, it was not the Colosseum where Christians were martyred, but the Circus Maximus, where they died by the thousands. But the Pope's mistake saved the Colosseum from the wrecking ball. Despite its gory past, Rome's Colosseum is one of the great achievements of human design. The fifth wonder, Chichen Itza. The New World. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, home of a world wonder. With a pyramid that rivals the pharaoh's tomb as a work of art and a feat of engineering, called famously El Castillo. It rises over a great city of the Mayas, Chichen Itza. God of Rain, Chacmul, reclines in a timeless gaze over the city's ruins. The Mayas are an intellectual people. Their society is well ordered, with sharp distinctions between kingly and priestly castes and the common people. They are literate. They read and write books. They are artistic. Superb mathematicians. Skilled architects and engineers. And marvelous astronomers. This round building is an observatory, where the stars were meticulously charted in conjunction with a complex Mayan calendar. It is called in Spanish the caracola, the snail. Scholars once believed that the Mayas were a peaceful people, charting the heavens and building beautiful temples. Modern research has proven how wrong they were. This is the Tlactli, the ball court. At 545 feet by 232 feet, it is the largest of its kind in Mesoamerica. 1 to 4 or more players make up a team. The object is to put a ball made of leather or India rubber through this hoop. No hands, only padded knees, hips, shoulders, and elbows can be used by the players. It's a ball game played for keeps. The losing players are beheaded. These sculpted panels depict the players. One of them has been decapitated, and from the wound shoot streams of blood which become serpents. This is a hopeful note, because to the Mayas, the serpent is a symbol of life. Adorned with hundreds of skulls, this stone platform once supported a large rack upon which the heads of the defeated players were displayed. Chacmul, a god on guard. This locale, the northern Yucatan, is arid. Here your very existence depends on heavy rainfall. And Chac is the god of rain. Holding a sacrificial bowl, he commands the entrance to the Temple of the Warriors. Along with its roof, much of its facade has yielded to a hostile torching and the ravages of time. Yet this temple is still awesome. Myriad columns in the form of feathered serpents attest to its greatness. Mayan warriors are constantly raiding rival Mayan kingdoms for captives. Gods, such as Chac, mandate human sacrifice to assure the survival of the world. there are never enough victims. In remote areas in the Yucatan today, Chac is still worshipped. Today's Maya live much as the common people lived in the glory days of Chichen Itza. Most are Christian, yet among some, Chac is still remembered, feared and adored. The old ways die hard. The Pyramid El Castillo, emblem of Chichen Itza. Mayan pyramids were not just tombs like the pyramids of Egypt. They were places of worship and sacrifice. 4 staircases rise 100 feet to the summit. The 91 steps on each of the 4 staircases, plus 1 step up to the temple platform, total 365 steps, the number of days in a year. Climbing these steps can be dangerous. Today, it's forbidden to visitors. But not too long ago, tourists took up the challenge and climbed to the top. To us, each stair is unusually high and narrow. The Maya were short people with small feet, but they must have taken giant steps. The balustrade on one of the stairways trails down to gaping serpents. At sunrise and sunset, on the spring and autumn equinox, the pyramid casts a shadow in the shape of a plumed serpent. This pyramid is sacred to Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent god imported from the north of Mexico by the conquering Toltecs. Latter-day Chichen Itza is marked by a forced marriage between Toltec and Mayan art. This is a natural sinkhole, one of 2 that supplied water for Chichen Itza the year round. This one is 100 feet deep, and a sacred lair of Chac, the rain god. Objects were thrown to the god as sacrifices, pottery, gold, jade. Sometimes, usually during a drought, human beings were hurled into it as offerings to the rain god lurking below the dark waters. When in the 16th century the Spanish first arrived at the Yucatan, the civilization of the Mayas was in a long decline. Even before the Spanish invaded, for reasons still debated by historians, the Mayas had abandoned many of their great cities. But as long as Chichen Itza stands proudly in the Mexican sun, the Maya are not a vanished people. The 6th wonder, the Great Wall. In our time and age of space travel, it has been claimed that the Great Wall of China is the only structure made by humans on the planet Earth that can be seen from outer space with the naked eye. Though this claim has been disproved, the concrete existence of this mightiest of man-made barriers deems it a wonder of the world. With 5,000 years of history, China is one of the oldest of all civilizations which have ever graced our planet. Silk numbers among China's numerous gifts to the whole world. Silk and tea, paper, and gunpowder. Destructive, yes, but peacefully employed in celebrations as fireworks. ancient Chinese civilization reached a level of refinement that would have staggered a Greek philosopher and boggled the mind of a medieval monk. But China's greatest gift to itself is what the Chinese call Wanli Changchen, and we call the Great Wall. It traverses China, 3,964 miles of masonry, starting in the east at the China Sea. In the fortress town of Shanhaiguan stands a colossal gate, protected by a deep moat and crowned by a tower. Its portal identifies it in bold calligraphy as the first pass under heaven. From its genesis, the wall meanders like a swelling river of stone, twisting and bending to the contours of mountains. Hovering over it is the spirit of Qinshi Huangdi, who, as China's first emperor, unites a muddle of petty kingdoms as one nation. China had been chaos. Its many little kingdoms had built walls, some going back as far as the 5th century BC, against invasion by scrappy neighbors. In the 2nd century BC, the first emperor takes wall building a giant step further, immuring existing walls into one great massive wall. Averaging 20 feet in height, China's Great Wall bristles with army posts where troops are garrisoned and arsenals kept in readiness. When under attack, watchtowers relay enemy troop strength by means of smoke signals during day, light and bonfires at night. Garrisons are alerted by firing rockets and beating drums. On the wall's length, there are 25,000 such watchtowers. The wall is wide enough from side to side for 5 to 6 horsemen or 10-foot soldiers marching abreast. Militarily, the wall is superb. But the cost is staggering. Today you see groups of workers repairing the wall, fix-ups, and in some cases, rebuilding entire sections. This has been going on for more than 600 years since the Ming Dynasty. These workers call to mind the wall's first builders. 800,000 laborers are pressed into service against their will to man the project. The work is brutal. Ditches alongside the wall's base are choked with workers' corpses. When a worker dies of exhaustion or abuse, his widow may be forced to take his place. One such widow of the wall is Meng Jianyu, who emerges as the heroine of the wall's construction. Meng's husband is suddenly ripped from her life, a fine, upstanding citizen, drafted into service by the emperor and condemned to toil like a common slave in building the Great Wall. Meng strolls endlessly and alone through the gardens they had once enjoyed together. Without him, the lilies have no beauty, the blossoms no fragrance. When after years he fails to return, Meng's family tries to force her into marriage with another man. Meng Jianyu flees her home in desperation and searches for her husband. At last, she finds him, dead from work, buried at the base of the wall he had toiled on. She weeps in spasms. Legend has it her tears pour forth in such torrents that the wall collapses. And she fearlessly curses the emperor. Near the China Sea, a temple has been built in honor of Meng Jianyu. Throughout China, hers is the voice of the common people, crying out against injustice. For centuries, the wall was a work in progress, surging through the vastness of China to its final outpost the fort at Jiaoyuguan. Beyond lay the Gobi Desert and the realm of the Mongols. Use of the Great Wall as a military highway continued into the 20th century, when millions of patriotic Chinese soldiers defended their country against the invading Japanese.